Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today I want to talk about Slash's endorsements of video games he's done over the past 30 years or so. And probably the best example, or the best two examples you guys are probably familiar with, is the Guns N' Roses pinball machine from Data East that came out in 1994, and then of course Guitar Hero 3, which came out in 2007. But there's another game you guys may not know about, and that was a guitar-based game that came out in 2014 called Bandfuse. And so we're going to talk about all that stuff, but let's get started with the Guns N' Roses pinball machine. So in 1994, Slash wanted to get Guns N' Roses to have their own pinball machine. In fact, his search for a pinball machine dates back to 1992, about a couple of years prior. And there was a couple different companies who were pretty big in the pinball industry at that point. There was Williams Bally, which was probably the best known. There was a smaller company named Data East, which Slash tended to gravitate towards because he wanted more creative control if they were to create a Guns N' Roses pinball machine. And what was cool is the pinball machine featured the songs from Guns N' Roses, including an unreleased track from the Use Your Illusion sessions called Ain't Going Down that they never really finished, but that was the first official release of the song. And here's an interview with Slash from MTV from 1994 talking about the newly released pinball machine at the time.
I like pinball because it's physical and it's definitely more rock and roll. Video games are wimpy. I got really hooked on it, And I thought, well, they haven't done a rock and roll machine in about 15 years. I think the last one was Ted Nugent. And so I thought, Guns could probably get away with making a machine at this point.
So Slash approached Data East Pinball, and the Guns N' Roses game was born.
It's definitely a hip game. Plus, it's the first game that's ever had real guitars. It's also the loudest one made to date, So I'm really proud of it.
Blaring 8 GNR classics, the machine also plays some unreleased material.
There's a song called Ain't Going Down, which we just never finished. And we have a chorus for it. So I figured we'd use that, finally get it out there. So now that we've done it, we have to actually record it.
But that may have to wait.
Now, the artwork for the pinball machine was largely inspired by Robert John's 1993 book for Guns N' Roses, A Photographic History. He was one of the band's photographers during the Appetite and especially the Use Your Illusion tour. And what's really cool is that the game also features voiceovers from the band members, including Axl and Duff. Now, at the time the pinball machine was released, it was the loudest pinball machine ever released. And of course, it's not being made anymore because it was released about 25 years ago, but you can still buy it online. And there was only, several thousands of these pinball machines made, but they retail all the way from $2,500 US to all the way to $8,000 US on sites like eBay and other auction sites. An interesting fact, it was actually the last pinball machine ever released by Data East as well. Now, in order to actually market this pinball machine, there were a number of different slogans that came up with by the marketing team. One was Guns N' Roses plus Data East Pinball equals platinum profit. During Riot Play, all switches award platinum points. Another one is Guns N' Roses leaps off the stage and into your location with non-stop, head-banging hard rock, in-your-face, screaming pinball action. And my favorite one is This Pinball's Got Attitude. Now, a guy named Lyman Sheets programmed the video mode for Guns N' Roses, and it was also recycled in Sega's 1997 Star Wars trilogy with different art, and in Stern's 1999 Harley-Davidson First Edition game as well. So a number of years ago, there was an interview that the Game Room blog did with one of the designers of the Data East pinball machine that they made for Guns N' Roses. So one of the designers revealed that Slash had a lot of input into the design of the pinball machine, saying yes, he did have a lot of input. I believe he did a doodle sketch he had drawn as we were talking about the game design. Slash is a pin collector too, and he has about 20 machines. So he was asked, so how much did Slash contribute to the design effort? I heard he came up with the G and R ramp design, but later heard this was actually your idea. He said Slash had a lot of input into the game. He suggested things that the band members like to do. Gilby Clarke loved motorcycles, and I came up with the idea for the video mode Gilby Rides. Lyman Sheets did an excellent job programming it. It was very cool, and it was reused in the Harley-Davidson game. He was also asked about making the Guns N' Roses pinball game and what some of the interesting stories were that came to mind. So he revealed after the big earthquake in 1993, I went to Slash's house in LA. He showed me his pinball collection and his snake collection. He also had a cougar about 8 months old. His name was Curtis. He was as friendly as your average house cat, and he was much larger than a house cat, a little bit bigger than a German Shepherd. I was petting him, and he laid down and rolled over on his back. I squatted down and rubbed his belly. Big mistake. He reached up with his front paw and got it around my neck and had me on my back in a split second. Next thing I noticed, Next thing I noticed, I was on top of him with his jaws around my neck. I was very calm and didn't panic or didn't try to get him off. He was playing with me. Slash yelled at him, "Get off, Curtis." He then released me and I got up. I figured if he bit down, it would have been a fast death. I did pet him more later, but didn't squat down to rub his belly again. He also went on to say, "I have a bottle of Jack Daniels that we all shared when Slash was in Chicago meeting us to go over the initial game layout." So one of the features of the pinball machine is something called the axle hole. And you get a mystery award if you shoot a pinball in the axle hole. So the interviewer said, "I find it funny that the mystery award is gained by shooting at the axle hole." Was someone making an underhanded comment there about Axel's mental status? To which the designer said, "Well, the axle hole mystery had nothing to do with his mental status. He was Mr. Impossible at the speech session. I was very nervous meeting him and he wanted nothing to do with the project. Sound producer Mike Klink had to edit tapes before giving them to me. Axel kicked us all out of off the sound stage, and after 4 hours produced not much at all. Since Guns broke up, he has produced nothing either. A great talent wasted in my opinion. I would like to use some colorful 4-letter words to describe him, but I'm bigger than that. How about this? He couldn't shine Robert Plant's shoes. Please print that for me. Pardon off, Axel, love, John." Now, Slash also did some promo interviews for the pinball machine, and here's the promo video. It's just a couple minutes long that he did for when the Guns N' Roses pinball machine came out in 1994.
Well, for one, okay, there hasn't been a cool pinball machine in the last 11 years as far as rock and roll is concerned. Like, I think the last one, not to plug Ted Nugent, but it was Weekend Warriors. Anyway, so when we decided to do one, it had to be something really cool and different and exciting. And so the Guns N' Roses machine is the loudest one ever made, so there you have it. The funny thing about it is that the whole object of the game, if you know any history of Guns N' Roses, is to get the band on stage, right? So you go through all 6 members, which is this shot right here, all right? Every time you make this shot, you get another band member. If you get all 6 of them, the band is officially on stage, and all 6 balls come out, and then you get to play a 6-ball game, all right? And that's got a certain personal humor for me, all right? Because we're notorious for not getting on stage on time. So initially, when we started designing this game on the napkin, it was drawn out with a basic goal, which was the G and the R ramps, and that's where it started. And so here they are. To be able to establish the fact that it is what it is really important, and it's nice to have a real official rock and roll machine that has our name on it, you know, so I'm happy.
Now fast forward a couple of years after Slash left Guns N' Roses, and he also contributed music to the pinball game Viper Night Driving, and the song Speed Parade from the second Snakebite record can actually be heard on the pinball machine. In an interview Slash gave recently, he talked about his love of pinball machines and how many he still has in his house. Here's what he had to say.
I've got 3 pinball machines in the house, and I think there's 5 more in storage, and I interchange them. Yeah. But I'm not that great a pinball player.
So you're not a pinball wizard?
I'm not a pinball wizard.
What's your highest score?
I have the top scores in all the games in the house.
Do you live alone?
No. When you get to a billion, you know, and you turn the machine over, I have reached that point.
What got you into pinball, though?
It came late in life. I mean, I wasn't one of those kids that hung out in the arcade when I was in junior high. All of a sudden, I discovered pinball, and I was in my 30s. And then I got hooked on it, and then I actually designed... or had the concept and helped design the Guns N' Roses pinball machine.
And here you are in your mid-30s now, and you still love it.
Yeah, I'm still in my mid-30s.
Of course. You mentioned the Guns N' Roses pinball machine. Actually, you helped design it, and am I right in saying it's the loudest, or it was at the time, the loudest pinball machine ever? So you are in the pinball history books. Yeah. That must fill you with pride, I imagine.
Yeah,
I can see it in your face now.
But there is no pinball history book, so that sort of sucks.
In the Guns N' Roses game, each ball represents kind of a band member, and the goal was that you needed to get each ball on stage so the show can begin, which presumably now would be the most realistic way of getting you guys back on stage together.
Yeah, right.
In shiny metal ball form.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's probably true.
Bringing the 2 passions together, guitar and pinball. Can you compare playing a guitar to a pinball table in any kind of way? Do they have anything in common?
That's a good original question. Let me have a thought.
Thank you.
I would imagine the accuracy and the focus and the concentration probably similar, and nimbleness of the fingers.
But what you get out of both, I mean, I guess.
No, guitar is definitely a way more satisfying, soulfully, and
even if you beat your top score after 10 years of trying.
It's exciting, but no, it doesn't do for me what a big, fat, nice sounding single note bend that feeds back a little bit. I can't compare the two.
Now, fast forward almost a decade later, and Slash would be involved with Guitar Hero 3. So how did he get involved with Guitar Hero 3? So he was a huge fan of Guitar Hero 2, and he had been a huge fan of the game. He'd played it to the point where he had to basically lock the game away because he was quite addicted to it. And then he got a call from his manager saying, hey, Activision, the publisher behind Guitar Hero 3, wants you to be involved with the game. So not only was he involved with writing some of the music for the game, he's also a playable character in the game, and Welcome to the Jungle from Guns N' Roses is also in the game as well. So here's an interview with him at the launch party for Guitar Hero 3 talking about the game.
The man himself, Slash, you have just a little to do with this Guitar Hero 3 game.
My character's in the game, and then I wrote the intro music, and I did the guitars for the boss battle. And I played it like crazy. Right before they asked me if I wanted to be involved, I had Guitar Hero 2, and I was playing it like constantly. Got sort of addicted to it. But once I beat the game, I had to unplug it and put it away to get away from it.
So how does your real life experience as a Guitar Hero influence the input you gave for the game? I understand you had a lot of input that you wanted to add to number 3.
Well, when I got the initial phone call about coming down and basically having some ideas for what would be interesting for the Guitar Hero 3, I mean, it wasn't really specific. Had some ideas as far as like actually, playing me was concerned, which turned out to be an idea that they already had. Let's see, what else was there? It's been a while since we were talking about that. Basically what my character would look like, or, all that kind of stuff. I think the main thing was just trying to get an understanding of what my involvement would be coming from Activision, what they actually wanted. And having seen it, it looks amazing, but outside of what they were thinking of, I wanted the Les Paul in there, to make sure that we had a Les Paul. Just basically, so whatever my character, whenever you saw my character, it was obviously me and the kind of stuff that I use and all that kind of jazz. That was basically about it. I can't really remember. There was a lot of different ideas, and most of them got incorporated in some way, shape, or form into what is now the existing game. So I'm pretty happy.
So you mentioned the Les Paul. How close does the game controller kind of simulate an actual guitar?
Well, no, the game controller is by far completely different than an actual guitar. So any of you kids at home think that you can pick up a game controller and learn how to play an actual guitar, they're on complete opposite sides of the fence.
Now, a couple of years later in 2010, a lot of the rhythm games that were coming out, Rock Band and Guitar Hero, were really not as popular as they were back in the peak in 2007, and their popularity was waning, and it didn't seem like we were going to see music games for a while. And then all of a sudden, by 2014, 2015, there's a new game on the market called Bandfuse. And there was already a game called Rocksmith that sort of taught people how to how to basically play guitar. But Bandfuse kind of was a similar idea, but they used like real tablature and stuff. And Slash was one of the instructors in the game, and he's also got one of his songs from his solo record in the game as well. So here's an interview of Slash talking about Bandfuse and working with the developer.
You worked with the developers on this Bandfuse Rock Legends game.
Well, they had the game pretty much sewn up when I first met them. The concept and all that stuff was done. I got involved with them and offered, a couple songs that they could use off of my record and this and that. And then I do a whole guitar tutorial in the game that tells you exactly what every component on the guitar is, how it works, what it does, all that kind of stuff.
So it's like a tutorial.
Yeah. Because basically what you do with this is you learn. It teaches you how to play songs on the guitar. If you've never picked up a guitar before, it's so easy that you can, I know it sounds cliche, but it really is.
Like
and it just basically, it teaches you, even if you've never ridden a bike, if you get on a bike in 5 minutes and take off on it, it's like that for a guitar.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So not just are you having fun playing it, you're learning how to play. Now, what can aspiring musicians learn from your in-game tutorials in addition to that? Like, you know, is there different styles of playing or things of that sort?
It teaches you a few different techniques. It teaches you a lot of real rudimentary, you know, basic stuff. But it also teaches you pull-ons. It teaches you some of the basic rock guitar techniques that people use that, you know, you see in tablature sometimes, but you might not understand. You know, it teaches you a lot of different things like that.
Now, what separates this game from other games like Guitar Hero and things of that sort? What is it, you know?
Guitar Hero is a toy. It doesn't. You actually use a real guitar. So it teaches you how to play a real guitar. Guitar Hero was a great thing for, you know, people to sort of pick up and pretend like they could play guitar, you know, and it was a lot of fun. I was involved with Guitar Hero as well, but this actually teaches people how to play guitar, but it's just as much as fun as Guitar Hero.
So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Have you guys played all those games that I talked about in today's video? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and go check us out at gnrcentral.com for the latest GNR news. Take care.